driving to the factory, I want to do a quick chat about my sudden interest in MFC, MMA, mixed martial art fighting and as a sport. MFC that originated from Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Judo, and that became very popular recently. So it's a nice platform for me to think about the nutrition and apply meat science to the MFC arena, and what would the fighter typically use, which then obviously being in Africa makes me wonder about the diet of African warriors. So particularly in West Africa and in Central East Africa, I find a lot of information on the subject. There's people who's writing who's putting out their diets and those kind of things that the African fighter would have, and it was all 99%, everything that I read is a bunch of blown out of proportion BS with no scientific or historical context or background. But I think there's definitely something to be said about this. The meat sharing traditions in West Africa, in Africa particularly, lends itself to the fact that we can see which parts of the animal were the prized parts. So there's a correlation in Western culture to this, where the eating of bacon, for example, Smith, who wrote in the middle of the 1800s his famous book on foods, says that bacon is a prized commodity, it's a prized food. Because the parents can boil the bacon before they enjoy it, and then the parents who must work the next day can eat the bacon, and then they can give the water that it was boiled in for the children for nourishment, and in that way there will be a measure of satisfaction for all concerned. So the poor kids only get the water that the bacon was boiled in. The proteins, of course, it becomes liquid, solubilized. They in the water, and so there's rich nutrition and fats and stuff that comes out in the water as well. So there's parallel to this in Western culture, where the best nutrition will be reserved for the person who's doing the most work, and so it's similar in Africa. And now, whether you talk about chicken or goat or beef, there's different parts of the animal that attracts various significance. So first of all, for example, among the Maasai people, but in many tribes in Africa, and this is the other thing that I just want to note, is that there's different values with so many tribes. There's over 200 tribes in Nigeria alone. Everybody's got his own particular emphasis and focus and those kind of things. But as far as it goes, a commonality is the drinking of the blood. So the Maasai people would famously take the blood and drink the blood and mix it in with milk and that type of thing. And blood, of course, is a rich source of iron. So when you think about nutrition in those days, let's say in the 12, 13, 1400s, the blood iron deficiency was a scourge on earth, and the blood would give you immediate relief of that with iron, and you will perk up. You will immediately become more energetic, and your brain will clear. It will be like a fog that lifts from your brain. So immediate benefits in drinking of blood. So from that, one can deduce that drinking of blood before a battle or something like that would be important. And the other thing to also remember is that warfare was not as staged, and it was more skirmishes, and not that many people were always killed. As there's of course famous examples where there was big conventional type of warfare, thinking about the Zulu nation down in South Africa, and their attack on the tribes in the area under Shaka. But that was more an imperial type of expansion that they engaged in, and but there's other examples of kingdoms here in West Africa as well. But by and large, the blood would be consumed by the young men. It's something that's prized. Yes, so when we look at the food source for UFC MMA fighter, mixed martial arts fighter, the immediate food dish that comes to mind is blood sausage, for example, right, which will have huge benefits to the fighter. Quick recovery, it's the type of thing that you want to see. You want to see high collagen content. You want to anything that can facilitate quick recovery in the body, and blood will definitely serve that purpose. So there's one correlation. The next one will be, for example, gizzards. There's tribes that I looked at, and when I do the article, when I write the article, I will post the references to this. But the gizzards in chicken is a prized possession. So again, it's high in vitamins, it's super high in iron, and it's super high in connective tissue, collagen. So collagen essential for wound, for bone healing and ligament healing and those type of things. Anybody who's involved in strenuous work, just back to the blood, as a matter of interest, is that the Maasai people would mostly get their salt from the blood, and so I've made mention of this in the work on salt, that salt was not really consumed in Africa as part of a diet traditionally. It became that later on, when people westernized, so to speak. And when I say westernized, I even mean set up kingdoms in a western style of kingdoms, or not necessarily western. It can be eastern style of kingdoms as well. But kingdoms were set up, and so the salt trade became important. But the salt trade, it seems to me that the salt trade in West Africa became important, and there's kingdoms that was founded on the salt trade, more important for cattle trading or cattle rearing than for human consumption. Human consumes a very tiny amount of salt, but that's a matter of salt. We're not talking about that now. So let's look at another prized food dish cut from the animals. We have the gizzard, we have the blood, we have the liver. Of course, liver super high in iron. Iron just is just generally important. Now, if you think about liver sausage, which we can make, fantastic product. Back to the gizzards. There's all kinds of things that we can do with gizzards, included in sausages. Then general collagen. Something that I find in Nigeria and in West Africa more than in any other part of the continent is the fact that pomo is consumed here. The skin is eaten as a dish. The widespread use. It's not in isolates like biltong in South Africa. Pomo is in West Africa. Everybody eats it. And of course, it's super high in fat, and it's super high in collagen. And so in West Africa, for sure, the warriors would eat pomo. You can. What's nice about pomo is that it also lasts. You can you roast it and you carry it with you, and you can feast on it anytime. So that is a superfood of note. So what Richard and myself are doing in Oak Woods is that we are formulating foods according to these classes that I'm just discussing now, and one of them is, for example, incorporating skin, pork skin, for example, into sausages, and for that purpose. So if you compare the one of the big gripes that I have, one of the big advantages that I see from meat science in the MFC MMA environment. And the same thing will be true for people with just a generally trained heart, all the bike riders from Cape Town, or older people who want to look after their health. The same thing applies to you guys. These collagen powders that you buy in the shop, that's sold for crazy prices. Go down to your local butcher and ask him for collagen. I've got on Earthworm Express I've got pages dedicated to recipes with collagen. I've worked with collagen now probably going for 5-6 years that I've just focused on collagen. And there's so many things that you can do with collagen, incorporate it in dishes, and it really is a superfood if you incorporate it. It's one of those things where there will be a marked improvement in your health and in joint pains and those kind of things if you incorporate collagen. Collagen is also one of those things that cannot be replaced by plant proteins. There is no single plant protein that compares at all with collagen. So back to the MMA, UFC arena, the fighters there, definitely they want to incorporate high levels of collagen in their diets. So liver, blood, knuckles, for example, the shin. I looked at Shin on Saturday very carefully, and Shin is high in connective tissue. Soft shin, the shin without the bone, or shin on the bone that you boil, make a soup out of it, or just debone the shin and use the meat. High in collagen, super high, and various ways that you can prepare it. That's absolutely delicious. So I'm inspired by this concept of the African fighter, and not just the African fighter. Let's call it the adult, the leader in Africa, because they would receive the Gizard, for example, in one tradition that I came across when it's related to chicken, and hearts is also higher in collagen than the rest of the ox hearts. That will be higher in collagen than the rest of the cow meat or the ox meat, beef. So also we know from I think everybody will be it's well known that there was among some people this belief that if you eat the heart of the animal that you take some of his strength on. Well, it's a very good if you must choose between the heart and just the normal meat, the heart will be slightly better, and then the blood and the liver, and we can make dishes specifically aimed at these to incorporate these different parts of the animal in our diet to our benefit, huge benefit. So this is just a little overview on what I'm doing now in specifically zooming in from a meat science perspective on the African warrior. There's a lot of other applications from meat science to the UFC, MMA, boxing, judoka type of environment, which I'm going to really dig into over the next couple of months. This is a fascinating journey. I love it.